Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Welcome. My name is Leah Nzisa. I will be your host today. This webinar has been brought to you by Cloudforce Community. If you'd like to join us, go to our LinkedIn page. We'll post it in the chat and you'll be able to join us. There is a form you'll fill in and some tasks you will perform, and then we'll give you feedback. Otherwise, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can find this video will be recorded, and you can find it in the YouTube channel, Cloud4Sky. I'll also post it in the chat. Thank you once again for joining us. Today, we have a special guest. We have an AWS Community Builder, Kevin Tuei, and he'll be taking us through today's session. We'll be doing a lab, one of the free AWS's labs, the first of the free AWS Builder labs. But before that, he'll also take us through a little introduction on what is serverless and the meaning behind the word serverless. So let us welcome Kevin Tuei. Kevin, you're here?
Yes, I am. I'll do my video a bit so that people can know me. Then yes. I think I'll go offline.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
Oh, okay. Awesome. It's over to me or what?
Yes, Kevin.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this session on evolution of our website going from a server to serverless. My name is Kevin Tuei. I'm an AWS Community Builder as well as a cloud consultant for Data Alma. I wear so many other hats, but those are the ones that are relevant for this session. And can't wait to interrogate this lab and see what we can learn from it, as well as trying to understand what serverless is all about. So I think from there on, you'll allow me to share my screen, and I'll stop my video so that it can save people's bandwidth. Awesome. So I'll do that, and I'll share my screen. I think I'll share this other screen before I go to my slide. Awesome. So kindly confirm that you can see my screen. I think let me see if I can pop up the chat.
We can see your screen. Yes.
Awesome. So in case there's any chats, you will please tell me.
I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I've already introduced myself. So today we're going to look at the evolution of our website going from a single server to serverless. So let's get on to it. So first of all, it's very important for us to understand where we are and why are we here today. So as always, I prefer getting to understand the audience and where we sit in terms of serverless. So maybe if you understand what serverless is all about, apart from thinking that it's about not having servers, you can do a 1 on the chat. If you don't know, you can put a 0. I think 0 works better, the binary 0. So if you know nothing about serverless, you can do a 0. If you know something about serverless, you can put a 1 there. Let me check this chat. I'm waiting on all of you. I can see Hillary, Evans, Janet, Moses. Many of us are here. I can see Edward, I think. So please, let's interact. Lewis, I can see you, my brother. Edith, good. Awesome. Edith, you know something about I can see people are so good at serverless. Okay. You get to understand what really serverless is all about. So if you are supposed to say what serverless is in just exactly 3 words, somebody to do that. If you can do it, then awesome. Good. It's awesome, Hillary. You're going to see by the end of the session, you're going to really understand what serverless is all about. So don't feel left out. still same case to Moses. So for those of Puta 1, I can see Janet, I can see Edward and Edith and Evans. If you can do it in 3 words, just 3 words, what is serverless? It will be awesome. I want to see whether you can do it in 3 words. If you can do it in 3 words, you don't know about serverless. Exactly, yes, I can see Janet has nailed it, not managing servers. So let's get on with it. It's going to be an interesting thing. So I'll be checking the chats, and if you have anything, you can also be telling me. I can see Larry will also be sharing that. So really, we have to ask ourselves, what does serverless really mean? The first time I heard about it, to be honest, I thought it's about time when cloud has stopped using servers. That was me. That was me the first time. But this time, later on, I came to realize, and I saw obviously a number of different memes, like you see serverless, but on the somebody saying serverless, but you're still using servers. What does it really mean? And it captures the whole essence around this meme. So let's get onto it and understand what really serverless means. So before we get to what serverless means, it's very important to understand where we came from. So that you understand this history, then you can be able to know how we transitioned to now getting to a point where technology has moved to serverless. So when cloud computing was starting out, it was a really exciting kind of an era. We had all these things about machine images. You could get an Ubuntu image, an Amazon Linux. Maybe every vendor had their own kind of flavor of Linux. And it was really exciting to see maybe a whole server instance, something that I will just only be having on VirtualBox or VMware, running somewhere on the internet, on the cloud, and you're running these commands as if from wherever you are, regardless of your device. And maybe what happens is you could be able to access your instances for hours and even up to months. You could be able to do a number of things within the servers. But then again, you came to realize that you got to a point where, let me pull this pen of mine here and see whether it's going to work on your side. If it's not going to work, I'm going to do something. So, okay, but let me just use maybe my highlighter. Okay, let me switch to this position and get this highlighter. There's a pointer. Good. I think this one helps. Yeah. So then we get to a point where we have patching, and it's like painstaking. I remember like every time you thought about Tuesday, sometimes it was kind of dreadful because of Patch Tuesday. Thinking about you can't do anything, you have to take care of whether your code will break or something, because maybe people like Microsoft will be releasing their patches for security and many other providers all around that. But then again, you have to live with it that patching is within the kind of infrastructure as a service. It's the responsibility of you as a customer. Then we had these developments around multi-threading and even multitasking, more and more CPUs, vCPUs, virtual CPUs coming up. Even up to this day and age, still we are in that kind of, even right now we're having GPU-powered instances. And the billing was all about per virtual machine. For every virtual machine you're running, you have to charge for it, and for every kind of an hour, there's a billing around that. That is where we were. Then we got to a point where now where we understand where serverless. What does really serverless really mean? And when you think about serverless, I'll be talking more into the context of AWS, but still a bit of Azure here and there, but more inclined into AWS. And looking at it, in Azure, they call it Azure Functions, but in AWS, call it Lambda. And somebody was asking, there was a certain funny story that I saw on LinkedIn. Somebody says, like, how many mathematical notations will AWS really need and to confuse us with all these kind of namings. Why are the providers not just calling a service the way it is very easy for us to understand? There's this Lambda, we think about Beta, we're going to think about all these kind of Dynamo. What does this, all these, it's really confusing. Anyways, what you think about that, it's all up to you. So as Janet said earlier, serverless really means that it's not that you don't have any servers, but there's no servers to provision for you as the customer or for you to manage. That managing and that provisioning is being done by your provider. And again, the scaling, you don't have to set up maybe an auto-scaling group. You don't have to set up maybe things such as load balancers for availability and trying to ensure that you deregister unhealthy targets and all these kind of things that need to go on when you're dealing with scaling by yourself as the customer. So as the usage increases, the provisioned resources from the provider scales with your usage. Then again, you really never have to pay for idle resources. Think of it like it is only spin up when you are actually invoking a function or invoking a certain task to take place, whether it is scheduled or whether it is on demand. You can never really have to think about that. But then it comes with a downside, for example, like code startups, the time it takes to install the dependencies or what is in the user data. But still, you can't compare that and money sometimes. So there are many ways people are trying to overcome those kind of challenges that are there in serverless. Then finally, it is the built-in availability and fault tolerance, which is very key in terms of looking at why you need serverless. You'll come to realize, even though there are different kinds of architectures that still use maybe say a virtual machine, there will be one part or one component of that architecture that is serverless in one way or another, be it the DB, be it the application, be it the sign up or the identity, single sign-on, whatever it is. You'll be able to realize that at one point, at some cases, some 10 components are serverless. So that's basically the four things: no servers to provision or manage, scales with usage, never pay for idle, and finally built-in availability and fault tolerance. That is what all serverless means. Although I'll be keen to ask you a question: what else does serverless mean to you? If there's somebody, maybe I'll check on that chat and tell me if there's any other of sort something happens, or what does serverless really mean to you? Especially for those who say they understand what serverless is all about. I hope by now, Hilary and Moses, you now understand what serverless is all about, and it's going to be much clearer when we get to the demo. Hopefully the demo gods will be on my side tonight. So anyone, I know Janet has already chipped in on this. Edith, Edward, Evans, or anyone even on the call who just joined in, I asked earlier if you have an understanding of serverless. So if you have an understanding, is there anything apart from these main four that serverless means to you? So if there is, you can still put it in the chat as we move on. So remember that the whole concept and the whole objective, as well as the justification for serverless, is to just simplify execution. So you have an event, for example, a change in a state or a trigger, all these kind of triggers that can take place and invoke a function to execute. It can be maybe a launch of a logon or whatever it is, a change of, for example, a DB has changed from stopped to running. So those are some of the things that can create trigger a Lambda function, and it can also have other dependent services within it. For example, you can need to provision maybe static content through an S3 bucket, for example, blog posts and pictures. Then you can also maybe need some data from a DynamoDB table. So those are some of the things that, so at the end of it all, it's all about simplifying it for the user as well as the developer, the whole process in terms of execution of application. And going forward, remember that in terms of serverless, it's all about the code and the dependencies. So for those two, they need to be packaged. The way you can think about, you're supposed to receive a Jumia order or a Kilimall or your favorite, whether it's Amazon or eBay. They can just say, the moment you order, maybe let's say that book or that laptop, they're not going to send it to you the way you see it in the picture. They have to package it well. They have to ensure that it's not going to be having any issues in terms of fragility. And then after they've completed packaging that order of yours, that parcel, they have to now ensure that it goes through a deployment, sending out through maybe from the warehouse to the distribution to a courier, and then you get that notification that it has reached that your nearest or the destination that you put in your order. So packaging and deployment happens in two ways. You can do it through a zip file. It can be through a zip file or a container image. Most of the time, it depends on your use case. And personally, I'm more of a container person. So, and you understand why, because there's a lot that you can much do. And you can see when you, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about the code and the packages as well as the dependencies. For a zip artifact, it can contain the two. So an artifact is really, think of it like a resource, or you can say a deliverable that needs to go into a serverless resource for processing, for invocation, whatever it is. Same case for a container image. The artifact is packaged the same way, and then it now comes out as, think of it like a container image is like an instance, a very small instance that has only it doesn't have the OS, it only has the code and the dependencies within it. So again, another concept around serverless is decoupling. So decoupling is basically, think of it like divorce. I don't know why that has just come to mind. So people who are together till death do them part. Something happens and then they just say, okay, we can't live together. You have to go your side, I have to go my side. But still, maybe you're going to do some child support or whatever it is. So maybe it may be for their good, instead of living maybe in turmoil and lack of peace. Same case for applications. Sometimes it might not be advisable to do what? To live in a monolith, or to have all the components of an application running in one instance or in one resource. So one way in terms of it, you can decouple traffic such that you have one domain that is being served maybe through CloudFront. And as users access it through that, it's CloudFront that ensures that maybe if somebody accesses /blog, it goes to an S3 bucket. If they're accessing /API, it goes to Fargate, which is a serverless offering of container orchestration. Another way is you can decouple now the background workers. Think of it like when you're in the bank. The only person you're seeing is the teller. The teller is the one serving you, but in the background, in the back office, there's someone is processing loans. There's another one processing checks. There's another one maybe doing forex. There's another person dealing with account issues. So all these people in the background, they are working for you. They are working to ensure that the services for the customers work well. You can imagine if it was only one person to deal with all that, it would be very crazy in that kind of a bank branch. So in this case, for example, think of the application load balancer as a teller. they get an issue, then they have to give it to somebody in the back office, the job producer through maybe Fargate, and then it goes through a queue. Maybe it is several related jobs. So there is an SQS there, implementation, and then the worker is able to deal with it. Maybe it's a FIFO, first in, first out. Then the jobs are executed in such. So you can decouple all these so that the producer and the worker are decoupled, and all that is happening behind a load balancer. Then you can also decouple an API into microservices. Again, you can remember the other diagram that we had, the first architecture. You can further decouple the API and get maybe, for example, one running. I'll show you this. I think I have something in my console that looks like this. For example, if you're doing /API/users, anything under that is in one cluster. Then another one is in another Fargate cluster /API/order. So any user accessing /API/users goes to that kind of decoupled container orchestration, and then these other, for example, for order goes to another one. So this is one that I told you, maybe I'll show you. So this is another implementation. For example, you have an application load balancer, and within it, there's a listener. Remember, under listeners and roles. So a listener can be listening for traffic on maybe the normal HTTP or HTTPS, and checks for the traffic if it matches a role. For example, is it from a specific IP, then it can go to this target group. If you think of it like the way geo restriction works, you try to access a certain service, then you're told it is only available in the US, or it is only available in Kenya, or whatever it is. Think of it like how YouTube in Kenya doesn't look like the same YouTube in Germany or in the US. How does it really work? So it's usually kind of in a similar kind of a setup. So the list of targets is usually managed by an ECS. So for example, there are different targets which you can see, and then remember that you can be able to ensure that there's a lot of less strain on the resources, because the listener rule is ensuring that traffic is rerouted according to the rules that have been matched. Okay, so remember, since these are some of the final decoupling tips as we get into the demo, remember that at first, usually start with this beautiful monolith. It works well, it's very beautiful. You don't have to worry about things. You just go into the IDE and change one area in Africa. Then if it is going on well, you just go to the other side in Australia or whatever it is. Usually very nice for anyone starting out. But when life starts beating, you think about, I need to go to microservice, this huge thing, and boom, you decide, okay, I need to break it all up, take the user registration on the other side, take the authentication to a Cognito pool, take the DB to DynamoDB, take what else? Take maybe the invocation of something on Lambda. And what happens is when you do that too fast, some things maybe kind of work. You get another service that has an issue. It is having some bugs. The AWS Lambda function is broken. A good part, maybe DynamoDB is working super, and then another service is really just functioning, then not functioning, functioning, then not functioning. That's what happens. It becomes a big recipe for disaster. But what happens is when you decouple gradually, when you decouple step by step, is you can be able to leave that kind of monolith for quite a while just before you transition fully to microservice. Ensure that as you pick out the functioning service, let's say you picked out this continent and made it a well-functioning service, you picked out something and it was launched by Elon Musk into space, and it starts moving out of orbit to confirm that it's efficient. think of it, maybe the International Space Station, everything is working. For example, when things are moving out, we don't bomb the Earth. So that is how you decouple gradually. And then you remember that you think of some places you can start. For example, like sign up, you can bring it out, you can decouple the part of password storage and hashing and put it in a database of its own. And then you can have another database to deal with maybe user details, the registration, or if it's an ordering app, or the one that holds suppliers, all in that database. So you can see further, you can also set up maybe a queue. And then, for example, when somebody signs up, there's an emailer service that sends an email, or maybe for subscriptions. And then you have another service to the worker service to deal with the jobs, so that they come in a first in, first out kind of a way, trying to understand, still having the main database. So you are just moving on very well in terms of your decoupling. And remember to decouple workloads responsibly, and remember it is okay to have a monolith. It's not a matter of do or the other. You can live with both. There are use cases where you might need both. So think of it like, in this case, you might be having a scheduled cron job that runs at 5 a.m. every day. Set it up there, leave it is working. Maybe it is a cron job that ensures maybe backups goes to an S3 bucket. And then you still have the queue going to a worker instance. Think of it, maybe it's happening in Fargate, and then you still have your microservice. Right now, instead of now having the whole thing under, then it goes to a DB. So remember, you can still have your core API running, and now you start branching out. So always remember, as final tip, is always look for transactions that have more than average response time. So anything that takes long, for example, I usually just get pissed when something makes me read the status bar on the Chrome or in Mozilla, where I have to see transferring data, or maybe performing a TLS handshake, transferring data, loading, sending request. It means that it's super slow. There's something wrong there. And I really know maybe my network is super fast and I have to read all those kind of things. I would rather go elsewhere. So think of it like that. Think of it, some of the things that you can decouple are the ones that take more than average of the response time. How long is the response time? Maybe you can tell me. Is it 3 seconds? Is it 5 seconds? What is that average response time that people expect when they visit or maybe they access your web or mobile app? Okay, awesome. So that's enough talk. That's enough of stories. It's now time for the code. I don't know whether you're excited, unless there's anything before I get to the code, maybe to the demo. Is there anyone with a question or something regarding what we've already covered? If there's none, I think we can just jump onto it. Anyone else? Usually say you give people 7 seconds to think whether they have a question or not. So if I give you 7 seconds and I don't see anything, I think that means you're good to go. Awesome. So we're going to get here. So I believe you have this. If you don't have, let me just share for those who want to code along. But I'll be pretty bit fast. Maybe you'll slow it down on YouTube when you get there. So let me share the link. See, it's on my messaging myself. I get it from my WhatsApp. Hopefully I'm not, okay, good, here it is. With that chat. Awesome. So when you click on that link, you're going to get to this page. So today we are covering this fundamental lab, but there are an intermediate lab and also front end is for everyone free lab. Although it says advanced, it's not pretty hard. It's pretty easy. It's not that hard. So let's get on to this. When you click on this link, you'll get to this point where you need to get an email. So you can choose one-time email passcode. Then you're going to you put in your email. Let me see, I have so many emails. Yeah, let me send it to my mail. Let me pick it up from this side. Let me pick that code from this side. So it has been sent. And at any point when if you feel there's something that is not clear, please feel free to unmute, and if there's anything on the chat, please also feel free to stop me at any point in time and tell me, can you back up there? What did you just do?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So I've gotten the code on my email. So maybe it would be great to know, is there anyone who is following along? Is there anyone who is following along so that I know, so that we catch up together and get to know whether you are. If there's anyone who can do a 2 on the chat, if you are following along on this on your laptop, and you're going to be doing it together with me. If there's anyone, remember I'm crossing fingers that it's no one. So this is the AWS Builder lab environment. It get you a tour, but I don't have to go through a tour. So what is very important to understand about this section is you have this pane that shows you all the tasks that you're going to be doing. And then there's this where your email is, and this where you start your lab. So if you start, you accept this, and you click on Start Lab. So you can read all these, but the whole scenario is a company called Any Company Ice Cream has hired you to create. Let me see if I can make it zoom it better. Hope it's now clearer. Okay, is it too big? That's too big. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Has hired us to create and maintain their website. So here you'll be able to follow the growth of the business and see how it evolves their website. So it'll start with a statics website hosted on S3 that simply displays the ice cream flavors. And then as this business is gaining popularity among the locals, they start to sell out before the day is up. So the owner is asking us to migrate to a server where they can have me push the updates or us push the updates, and then we can decide to migrate their static website to EC2 with Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and all this. So it's pretty simple. I think this part is straightforward because for this case, we're going to simply upload a zip file to S3. The S3 bucket will be pre-created for us when this provisioning is happening. And then also another thing that will happen is it will already be set up for static website hosting. So those are some of the steps that you'll realize that it has been done for you in this lab. But in a real life scenario, you need to set it up. And the good thing is there's a lot of documentation. I think most people start on the cloud by learning how to host a static website on S3. Most people start from there. So it can't be that difficult. So then after we do that, you're going to migrate the dynamic website hosted on EC2 from using a MySQL to DynamoDB. So this is where now the website is going to go from a single server to serverless. Why? Because we'll no longer be using the EC2 instance for both things, that is serving the content and processing, rendering the page, as well as maybe running the database. And why is it important is you remember that EC2 instances for their instance store, they are ephemeral. That means that if you stop the instance and you turn it on, or maybe if something just changes in it, you're not assured of what application, if it's a MySQL database that you've already provisioned in an EC2 instance, that all the data you're assured will be there. But in DynamoDB, also there's the issue of lack of scalability once it is there. So that is a very good proposition why you should tell the manager for the ice cream company to migrate the MySQL database to DynamoDB. And you remember when we are talking about decoupling, you think about those things that take more than an average response time. And then you're going to update the DynamoDB with a new ice cream flavor. We are going to put some items on the table, and then you're going to refresh. So this is where there was an issue with the lab. So you needed to install AWS SDK for PHP on the EC2 instance for it to retrieve the DynamoDB items. But that is we're going to do it very easily because we have that code. So let's do this. It's about a minute. Lab is ready. Let's get to the console. I'll try to see whether I can put them side by side. Okay. Hopefully it's going to be good enough so that we can see the instructions on this side and the console on the other side. Any questions so far? Anyone with any kind of thing that they would want to? So this is just the tour. I'm not familiar. It'll allow me to set up one small thing that I usually love doing because it's very important for me to do it. So let me just set it up right now on this console. Then life can go on. Let me just do this. Still being taught about the console. Why now? Okay. Okay, I think with that I can survive. Now let's go back. What am I supposed to do? I've already started. I think we don't have a sign-in error. Remember, if you are already logged in, don't forget you need to log out of your personal account so that you can access this labs user AWS account. So remember that we have a static website. So I think we need to go to S3. Then you're going to use the zip file. I think there's a zip file. So we need to just upload. Remember that a bucket policy was already added, as I already mentioned earlier, and also the index document was set to index.html when you're setting up static website hosting. So I'll just download this very fast. Let's see. Yeah, I already have it. I think I'd already downloaded it, so it's asking me to download it again, but it's okay. What do I do? Okay, let me just save it. Remember, another thing, some people were asking me earlier, how are you able to do it? So you'll see two S3 buckets, and you might think, no, I'm not seeing this bucket called S3 HTML bucket because you want to see this. But the reason why you can't see this is you remember that bucket names are global and they need to be unique. So if all of us are launching this lab, we're not going to expect to access the same bucket. That is why you can see the lab, since it's being provisioned using CloudFormation, the lab stack is put with a unique hash, as well as now the name S3HTML bucket at the middle, and then Affini, all this just to make it unique. So you might think it is not there, but it is this second bucket most of the time. So if I open it, and then I think I need to just upload. So I need to unzip, but I think I already have it. So let's see if I can pull it up. Let's see if I can open downloads on my other side so that I don't just set up everything on the public domain. Here it is. So I just need to drag this here. So I'm uploading 3 items. For those who already know about HTML, it's an index.html, a CSS for styling, and a picture inside a folder called images. Simple as that. So I'll just upload that. Then as I upload that, I think it's going to finish in very fast. It should be pretty easy. Done. Then I'll close that as per this. And then on this step is really going to test. So to test, we're going to go to the properties tab. These are the tabs. So for properties, you're going to go to that property, and then you scroll down, and you get there under static website hosting, which has already been set up for us. We copy this bucket endpoint. Then when you open it, we should get, okay, what the hell? Getting a gateway timeout. I don't know whether it's on my end. Let me see. Oh, you don't have a permission. Okay, that's not an issue. Should not be an issue. Somebody maybe let me see if it's an issue on my end. Can somebody just click on that link and see whether it's loading that site? Maybe it's on my end, or maybe I need to go incognito. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think and he just needed. Thank you, Collins and Lewis. Yes, I decided to go incognito. I don't know what's going on with this this tab of mine, but you can see we're just getting a listing of the flavors. Awesome, that is pretty straightforward. So we're going to go to EC2. Let me just move this away from the screen. We go to EC2. Remember, right now we are now looking at it now from going from a static site to a dynamic site and a LAMP. For those who did some projects, maybe back in campus or high school, you must have used something like XAMPP or WAMP. So you can think of it as that. But I don't know, why do people still use that? Why do still people use that? I usually ask students, why don't you set up something on GitHub? Use something like what? Is it Replit or what? Why do people still use? Maybe you can tell me in the chat. Why do people still? Maybe it's for local. Then when presentation comes, people are saying it worked on this laptop, but right now it's not working on this other, and that is the reason why you can see those errors. Anyways, so we'll tick this. Then you're going to check on the public IPv4. I hope you've remembered that now, since from February, AWS will be charging these gems of IPv4s. It's I don't know whether it's a sad or a good thing. So you can see now it is doing more. It is doing more than just showing the flavors. It is also showing these prices, and these prices, to be precise, they are being loaded. They are being loaded from an RDS. I'm not an RDS, from a MySQL that has been installed within the EC2 instance. Okay, I think we're getting that. Update the dynamic to use DynamoDB. So remember, in this step, so you can see in the architecture, instead of us using the MySQL within the EC2, we're going to now use data being loaded from DynamoDB. And this is where things, okay, what happened is, for the lab, the AWS training and certification team ensured that you have the file for the reconfiguration so that you don't have to think about the coding. So let's just connect to the instance. I'm sure that is the thing that you need to do. Need to update. This task will complete, update the, okay, so I need to start with the DynamoDB and add the records. So let's do that. Let's go to DynamoDB. So remember, this is now the, if I can call it the serverlization, if I can call it that. So serverlization, we are doing that. We are moving serverlessization, if it's something like that. Serverlessization. I've just created a new word on Cloudforce Sky. So, so we're here. So remember how it works. You just, for example, I think we already have a table created for us. So here it is. Where is it? Where is it? It should go to tables. I'm just opened it up from this pane. I should see a table name called products. It is there, provisioned for us. I'll click on the link instead of clicking on the checkbox on the link, and then I'll explore the table items, and then I'll create one item, just one item called product flavor, with a partition key of 1. Product flavor is cinnamon spice chocolate. Okay, never tasted a chocolate that tastes like that, but we're going to do it. So we're going to create an item. Partition key is 1. Add a new attribute of a string, and then we do the product flavor, and then we're going to add another attribute of a string, and then we do cinnamon spice chocolate. Then I think we're going to create an item. Okay, we need to add another attribute of number, if I'm not wrong. It's still string. Still string. So let's do string still. Product price, and then we're going to do, okay, what did I do? I think I need to do this. Somebody didn't tell me I'm not doing the right thing. Product flavor should appear in the value side, and then product price should appear on, I was already on the row like that. So we have it, the attribute name, first of all, the partition key is 1. The product flavor, the value is that. The product price is 7.99. I think we're good to go. You can create the item, and then we'll now update the I think it has already been created. Yes, the item has been saved. So we go to connecting to the instance. Just connect to it, and then we're going to run a script to migrate the database. If you want, at your own time, when you're going through the lab, you can do what can I call it? Is it what? Not a postmortem, or what? An interrogation of this script and what it does line by line. So it is loading. So we're going to expect, so basically what it's going to do is going to rename the current index.php file into compute index, the one that was using the EC2, and then it's going to rename an existing serverless index.php to index.php, then restart Apache. So hopefully it's going to run. Oops, it's not going to require me to, yeah, it has done that. So remember, you're not going to just refresh and then it's going to work. It's not going to work. So if I do a refresh here, you're going to see a blank, and then you're going to wonder what the hell, what is going wrong? And that is where now research came to the rescue. And then let me just pull up my GitHub gist. Here it is. Coming up. Boop. Awesome. There is my GitHub gist that see. So what I need to do, I need to CD to the HTML and just list whatever is inside there. So I need to do that. So I can see everything is here, AWS SDK, blah, 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 but okay, things are not working the way it should. So we'll first of all install Composer. And then really now using Composer, we are going to use it to install the SDK for PHP. So that is that. I think if you want to ensure that the items appear one line after the other, if you add more than one item, you can also use this PHP part to change, but I'll not do that. That I'll leave for your homework. So let's see. I think it's done. Now let us refresh. Awesome. Magical. We now have the item appearing from the Dynamo. And just to confirm that it is from the DynamoDB, we'll add one more item. and then we say we have done it. We'll have done the lab. We'll be done with the lab. So why is my DynamoDB appearing? But I don't have enough memory. How many tabs are? Okay, it is back. Okay, so let us do create item. I'll still use that part. I need to do, I think I need to do, you can say true. I add a new attribute of a string. Should be a product flavor. And then I call it maybe a new flavor called Cloudforce Sky. Then I add a new attribute, I call it string. And then I can say the price for Cloudforce Sky is 1.5, like the housing levy percentage. Then we create that item. So as I've told you, when you refresh, you're going to see it not appear well. You can see it appears one line. So you can change, you can just go and change and add this edit that I did. So what I just did is, where was that part? I just added a BR somewhere and some things there. Then it appeared one line, all in their own line. But you can see, you can confirm that it has appeared. For the, finally, on the architecture that I told you about, let me see if I can pull it up here very fast, then I can conclude my session. I know I'm out of time. Where is that architecture? Yeah, it is here. So let me pull this up. So you can see this is another, just can say a microservice, simple. So you can see what I was telling you about using listeners. You can have, for example, this is the load balancer. So you can have, for example, you can see this load balancer has two listeners, one listening on port 80 and another one from 8080. Remember, when you can be having, once it works on port 8080, it can transition to 80. So that is how it is working, because it's on a pipeline. So if you look at these two rules, just to show you, because it has been decoupled, just to confirm that it has been decoupled, is that, yeah, you already saw that the targets, we have an employee microservice and a customer microservice. That is what serves here, because you can see under customer, the customer can only see the list of suppliers, but they cannot do anything to that list. But on the administrator side, okay, with that admin, we go back to home. Okay, what is happening here? Let me just do an 80. Is that supposed to be happening? I'm not sure. Administrator link. Oh, good. Okay, administrator link. But I think maybe that microservice is updating. But if you look at the pipeline, let me just show you the pipeline. Where is that pipeline? Yeah, this is the pipeline. So you can see, okay, did the pipeline finish? Yeah, it succeeded. So I don't have, it is going to it's getting two sources from code commit and the ECR. So what is happening is I'm having all these happening through Cloud9. Cloud9 is here. So maybe if I update, so it's just that I think I haven't reconnected. If I update and I've pushed to the Docker, I mean to the ECR repository, my Docker image, the whole thing starts happening. For example, if I just say customers home here, I update that, I decide to delete. This one is, I think this one is customers, yes. I delete that. Okay, I don't have a container. I can decide to build, that. So you can see I've already built a new image. No worries about that. I can tag it. Under the ECR, then I can just push it. So if I just push it like that, so you can see I've pushed two, have been pushed, and you can see it under the pipeline. That is what happens. So you can see under the pipeline, is this the customer microservice? Yes. So you can see it has just happened. Something has already just happened. The commit, it has already realized that something has changed in the code commit and even in the ECR. And you can see now we are now getting to the deploy stage, but the build is already happening with doing it through Cloud9 or something, but you can be able to automate the whole process. So that is a way of you decoupling, decoupling, and all this is going to Fargate. It's all happening through ECS. So you can see these are the two. The employee is fine. This one is happening, and when you go to ECS, you're going to see all those tasks. You can even scale. You can even scale automatically, or you can decide to scale. So you now take advantage of scaling. So yeah, that's basically it from my end. So maybe if that, you can just load the ECS, then I finish up. So I hope you've learned something in terms of that whole first lab and how you can decouple your monolithic architecture into microservices and leverage serverless orchestration such as Fargate to deploy your microservices once you've done the decoupling. So let this load, then I finish up. So it is loading. No, it is not loading it's loading forever. Okay, here it is. It's going to load. So you can see I'm having this serverless cluster. It has two services, the employee and the customer. And if you look at the services, you can see all of them. I think they only have one task running. And I can just decide even to scale them up very fast by clicking on one in just one command. I'm already done with scaling from maybe 2 to 3 services by just changing the desired capacity. So that is all possible through a single command. For example, I think I can just get it here. It is here from my previous work. It is here. Where is it? It is it's here. I think it's the desired. Yeah, there it is. So you can see in this command, I'm changing from the desired count from 1 to 3. So if I just run that for the customer microservice, you can see if I get this JSON, it means that it has worked. And if I go back to my ECS, I'll confirm that it has now moved from one task to 3 tasks. Meaning that and you can even automatically do this using a Lambda function or whatever it is that you want to achieve. I think that is it for me, unless there's any questions. Sorry for going over time. Back to you, Leah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It is really appreciated. Thank you so much. There anyone with a question? Anyone with a question, you're free to raise your hand or to unmute and talk out your question, or you can send it in the chat. Anyone with a question? No questions.
It seems it was an awesome one.
Must have been. Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate. And thank you everyone for joining us. Please join us again next week. We'll be continuing with the same subject. I bid you good night. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a lovely one. Thank you.